Hi friends, I'm Katie Brinkley and you're listening to Rocky Mountain Marketing. With nearly 2 decades helping business owners, consultants, and coaches with their digital marketing, I know that social media can be an incredible tool to grow your business when you know how to do it the right way. And that's what we're going to do today. I teach you how to navigate the world of entrepreneurship and digital marketing, and hopefully you'll grow your business with a few great tips you wouldn't have known otherwise, and maybe even discover a great local business you love. Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. This is a very special episode because I am wrapping up Season 3 of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Season 4 is going to kick off here soon. And as we wrap up Season 3, I want to talk about a couple milestones that happened during this last season. So one of the biggest milestones is that I aired my 200th episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Holy cow, I can't believe 200 episodes have come through this podcast. I've had so many incredible guests come through. And this year, during 2023, I launched my quick cast episodes. So I now have 2 episodes a week coming out. And with that, it did allow me to reach that 200th milestone a little bit quicker than I originally anticipated. But with my 200th episode, I had a very special guest on, Rich Brooks. He joined me once again on the podcast. And Rich joined me earlier in 2022, and he and I have become very good friends since he came onto my show. So the fact that he was episode number 200 was very special for me. But I want to just reflect on this journey with all of you, because I know that some of you have heard me talk about how podcasting is an incredible tool for your business. But I want you to realize just how incredible of a tool it is, because it was not that long ago that I was sitting there saying, man, I would love to have a podcast, but I just don't know how to get started. And who would want to listen to me? Is there really that much stuff that I can talk about every single week when it comes to social media? And the answer obviously is yes, because here we are over 3 years in the process. I started my podcast back in April of 2020. And I know that for those of you that have heard this story before, I'm going to share it again really quick. So I went to Social Media Marketing World. It was the first time that I went to it back in March of 2020. And it was something that I had always wanted to go to, this event. Back when I worked at the TV station, I remember talking to my boss and saying, I want to go to this event. And we just couldn't make the numbers work. So I wasn't able to go. And then I had my business for about 3 years before I decided to just pay my own way. And I remember sitting there thinking, I've been wanting to go to this event for years. Why am I not going to it? There's nobody else that needs to approve this event, me attending this event other than me. I need to go there. And that's when everything for my business changed. I made incredible friends, amazing connections. But one of the biggest things that I saw was how many people had a podcast. And it blew me away because I was like, man, maybe you don't need to have a ton of equipment. You don't need to have a ton of tools. You just need to have an idea and a strategy, and you have to stick to it. There's a ton of podcasts out there, tons. And I think that the last time I looked, there's over 32,000 podcasts that are currently active, but there's over 3 million podcasts out there. And if you think about that, if there's only 32,000 that are still active, whoa, how is that possible? And it's because pod fade happens. And with having pod fade, it means that you just get burnt out, because I'll be honest with you, it is really hard showing up every week. And for me, twice a week, showing up every week, finding guests, creating the outlines, creating the assets, all that takes a lot of work. And I think that was one of the things that I decided to stick with when I started my podcast. I mean, I was given the gift of being, under quarantine like the rest of the world. So I had nothing else to do except for try and get the work done. And I stuck with it. One of my very first interviews was with John Murray, and he is the owner of Jammin' DJs in Colorado. And he also is the announcer for the Colorado Buffaloes for their in-game. And I remember he showed up for the interview with an amazing microphone, and he had this great setup. And here I was with my Amazon microphone recording from my basement. And I had serious imposter syndrome, but we had a great interview. He sounded amazing. And we actually continued this friendship ever since. And I think if I would have showed up and he would have seen me there in my basement and sat and laughed at me, I probably would have been discouraged and given up. But he showed up, he was professional, he gave me a great interview, and it allowed me to really gain that confidence. I want to just share that because we all have to start somewhere. I'm sitting here now with my expensive microphone. Yes, this microphone was way more than I ever intended on spending, but the acoustics in my office, while aesthetically appealing, the acoustics in here aren't great. So now I have a better microphone. I have the PodTrack P4 to check my levels and check my guests' levels. I have a better screen, so a camera, so I can have this on YouTube as well. But I didn't start with all that. I started with just my laptop, a USB microphone that I got off of Amazon, and I just got started. And I just want to share that because, again, you have to get started somewhere. And getting started is the hardest part. If you're waiting for perfection, it's never going to happen. Practice makes perfect. And even though I come from radio, I was the post-game reporter for the Colorado Rockies, the Denver Broncos, the Colorado Avalanche at 850 KOA here in Denver. And I loved that job. I come from speaking into a microphone and interviewing athletes, but I was still nervous. I still had that imposter syndrome. So trust me, I know exactly where you're coming from, but get started. And if you have an idea, you can do it. So that I want to celebrate this milestone of 200 episodes with you. And this episode is really dedicated to revisiting some of the highlights that we had here in season 3. So, because again, if you're waiting for perfection, you're never going to get started. I'm still learning, and I'm enjoying having the opportunity to interview all these people that are masters of their field. And if you have the opportunity to sit down and talk and learn from people and have a conversation with them, a podcast is a great way to have that one-on-one conversation with such an incredible mix of people. Now, season 3 has been a really long season. It started back with episode 103 with Amanda Harness. And like I said, this is episode 207. And I think it's mostly because I've been on such a roll of creating the content that my assistant, Racy, God love her, she was like, I think it's about time that we wrapped up season 3 and moved on to season 4, Katie. And so thank you, Racy, for keeping me on track here. But for season 3, we covered a lot of ground, and some of my favorite episodes I'm going to highlight in today's recap of season 3. So let's go way back to episode 111 with the Instagram algorithm explained with Jen Herman. Jen is incredible. She is Jen's Trends on Instagram, and she helped write the book on Instagram for business owners. She and I have been able to connect in San Diego a couple times, and she is such a genuine person, super funny. And when we had the opportunity to record our podcast, she and I talked for about 15, 20 minutes until I was finally like, oh man, we need to hit record. The very first time that I got to sit down with her, she was just very warm, very welcoming, and somebody that I feel like I've been friends with my whole life. During this episode, she and I discussed the importance on content visibility and engagement, and just how often Instagram is changing, how it's consistently updating and new features and new things are getting priority out in the algorithm. And if you're not happy with what you're seeing in your feed, well, there's no one to blame but yourself. And we also talked about whether or not hashtags work, where you should put those hashtags, what the best performing content is so that you can create more of that content for your audience. So if you want to learn more about the Instagram algorithm, be sure to check out episode 111 with Jen Herman. I also had the opportunity to sit down and talk with my good friend, Rich Brooks, not once, but twice. He was episode 128 the first time, and we talked about what it is that makes your brand remarkable. How do you stand out from the crowd? Whether you're a local business or you're an online business, there's something that makes you different. And it might be something that makes you niche, or it might be something that gives you the opportunity to work with many, many people. We talked all about your brand's remarkability in that episode 128. And then in episode 200, we talked about events and whether or not your business should have an event. Live events are a great way to boost your brand's recognition in the community and amongst other people that are out there in your field. So we talked about that in episode 200. And I absolutely love Rich anytime he can come on the podcast. So be sure to check out episodes 128 and episode 200. Also, I talked about branding with Lucy Badui in episode 148. And she emphasized the importance of storytelling in your branding, how your story is a part of your brand. And if you're not willing to share that story, you can have all the logos, the fonts, the colors, all the things, but it's your story that's going to help you stand out from the crowd. Be sure to check out episode 148, Your Story, Your Brand with Lucy Badui. And of course, it wouldn't be 2023 unless I talked about AI. And I feel like it's been such a buzzword. We're only about halfway through 2023, and it's still stronger than ever. Everyone is all in on AI. And we talked about it a lot this year. A couple episodes that I think are going to help you with AI if you're ready to finally say, okay, it's not going anywhere. Computers and robots aren't here to take over the world just yet. If you want to learn more about what ChatGPT is, I did a quick cast episode in episode 151 called ChatGPT is the new AI kid on the block. And I dive into how you can use ChatGPT for your business and give it the correct tone, with how you can use it for social media, blog posts, writing spreadsheets, all sorts of things. So be sure to check out the quick cast episode in 151. And then I also sit down with my good friend, Vince Warnock, in episode 162. And we actually talk about whether or not ChatGPT could potentially take over our jobs. That has been a very common concern, not just amongst marketers and copywriters, but a lot of businesses are out there starting to delegate a lot of positions to AI. What is the potential of AI on the current job market? So be sure to check out episode 162, Will ChatGPT Take Over Our Jobs with Vince Warnock. As I said before, in 2023, I did launch the quick cast episodes. These are those shorter episodes that come out every Thursday where I have the opportunity to sit down with you and talk about something that I'm paying attention to in the social media world, what I have found works and doesn't work for my business, books that I am reading. But a couple of quick cast episodes that I think should get a little bit of attention are the ones that I've done around content creation and marketing. Those, let's be real, that's my secret sauce. That's my zone of genius. And I talk about content creation and marketing in episodes 167 and 169. In episode 169, I talk about the secret to success of content creation and why learning really matters more than likes. Because as we continue creating content, man, there's a reason that I have a job. These social media companies out there are giving agencies and content creators, they just don't let us rest. There's always something new to learn. There's a new way to create content, and there's something new in the algorithm. And this is why I think it's so important to continue learning, because if you've been doing your Instagram, your Facebook, your LinkedIn today, if you're doing it the same way today that you were doing it 3 or 4 years ago, you're missing a huge opportunity because the algorithm has shifted, the platform has shifted, and it is important that you continue learning. And then in episode 167, I talk about breaking free from writer's block and generating those content ideas. One of the tools that I found has been huge for me in 2023 is a tool called Capsho. As you know, I have my podcast here, but I also guest on a lot of podcasts. And just sharing a link to the podcast episode isn't enough. I don't know about you, but I never go to Instagram saying, I'd like to go listen to a podcast. I'm going to Instagram to consume content and look at pictures and maybe watch some reels. So this is where Capsho has come in and allowed me to rethink how I'm sharing my podcast episodes. If you're interested in learning more about Capsho, go to katiebrinkley.com/Capsho, and you can get a free 2-week trial of their Capsho Pro. And last but not least, I have to give shout outs to my good friend, Wave Wild. She sat down with me in person at the CEX conference, and we talked all about TikTok once again. We talked also to my good friend Kendra in person at another event. I love having the opportunity to sit down in real life and record podcast episodes with my guests. It's something magical about that. So be sure to sit down and listen to the episode with Wave Wild and any of the Business Besties episodes with me and Kendra Swalls. If you liked those Business Besties episodes, let me know and we can bring those back. Summer got crazy for us and we had a hard time keeping up with it. But if you guys enjoyed the Business Besties episodes, I'll connect with Kendra and maybe we can bring that back in season 4. All in all, I want to thank you, my listeners, for being here every single week, sometimes twice a week. And your support is everything. I have over 160 reviews on Apple right now. Thank you for the reviews. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing this with your friends, your coworkers, your family, the people that you think would benefit from the lessons that we talk about here on Rocky Mountain Marketing every week. I wouldn't be able to keep with it for 3 years if it weren't for you. And you listeners really, I love seeing the emails come in. I love the LinkedIn messages saying that you like certain episodes. It allows me to keep going and not get the pod fade. So I want to thank you again for all of your support throughout season 3. Thank you for all of your reviews. Thank you for subscribing to the podcast. And I do have some great guests already lined up for next season. I have Alex Sanfilippo lined up, Larry Roberts, Kate Payne, Vivica Von Rosen, Jeff C. is going to come back, Bree Seeley. This is just a small handful of people that are going to be making appearances in season 4. And the QuickCast is staying. So the QuickCast has been a huge hit for you. So I will be doing the QuickCast episodes every single week, these bite-sized episodes on the latest social media trends. And I want to thank you all. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor of the podcast, be sure to reach out to me. The podcast has a global audience and we are a top 1.5% podcast out there. So if you're interested in learning more on how you can become a sponsor for Rocky Mountain Marketing, send me an email at katie@katiebrinkley.com. And last but not least, the next Instagram bootcamp is coming up. Go to katiebrinkley.com/bootcamp. Secure your spot today because it is a limited amount of seats available. And I'd love to have you there. If you're ready to actually learn how to use Instagram for your business, if you're tired of the spaghetti at the wall method, join us in the Instagram bootcamp. Would love to have you there. And I want to thank you all for being amazing listeners. Thanks for your support, and we'll see you in next week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Make sure to subscribe so that you can continue navigating the world of entrepreneurship. And I'd love to hear from you. Please leave the show a review and connect with me on social media. You can find me on Instagram at @IamKatieBrinkley or connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you're ready to start making some sales on social media, be sure to grab my free guide to selling in the DMs without being spammy. You can get that at katiebrinkley.com. Let's keep taking your marketing to all new heights.